In this podcast episode, the hosts speak with Rebecca Lemov, a historian of science at Harvard and author of The Instability of Truth, Brainwashing, Mind Control, and Hyper-Persuasion. The conversation delves deeply into the history, mechanisms, and contemporary relevance of mind control techniques, including the infamous CIA MKUltra program, and explores how these methods continue to influence society today. Lemov begins by framing the discussion around the concept of brainwashing, a term popularized in the 1950s by OSS agent Edward Hunter to describe a secret weapon allegedly used by communists to coerce prisoners of war into adopting new beliefs. Brainwashing, as Lemov explains, is more than mere torture. It is a form of coercive persuasion that involves both physical and psychological pressure, compelling individuals to internalize new identities or beliefs, often as a survival mechanism. Mind control is closely related, sometimes used interchangeably, but can also encompass broader phenomena such as cult indoctrination. Lemov introduces the concept of hyperpersuasion to describe a modern evolution of influence techniques. Unlike traditional mass persuasion, which broadcasts uniform messages to large audiences, hyperpersuasion leverages digital technologies and algorithms to deliver highly targeted, personalized content designed to manipulate emotions and beliefs on an individual level. This spectrum, from brainwashing to hyperpersuasion, reveals how control over thought and behavior can range from overt coercion to subtle, algorithm-driven influence. The podcast revisits the chilling history of brainwashing during the Korean War, focusing on the 21 American prisoners of war who refused repatriation to the United States after being subjected to intense indoctrination. This event sparked a defensive response from the U.S. military, which sought to understand and replicate these techniques to inoculate soldiers against similar manipulation. This led to the development of survival, evasion, resistance, and escape (SSERE) training programs, where military personnel were deliberately exposed to brainwashing-like conditions to build psychological resilience. Lemov also discusses the CIA's MKUltra program, a sprawling and secretive set of experiments aimed at exploring the limits of behavioral control. These experiments involved drugs, psychosurgery, and other invasive methods to determine whether individuals could be transformed into Manchurian candidates, people who would abandon their identities and act entirely under external control. The tragic story of Leonard Kyle, a self-taught engineer who was subjected to brain implants and declared paranoid schizophrenic despite his accurate claims of government mind control, exemplifies the human cost of these experiments. One of the most haunting aspects of the discussion centers on forced confessions. Why individuals admit to crimes they did not commit under extreme psychological pressure. Lemov recounts the story of a French doctor imprisoned in Maoist China who, after brutal interrogation and deprivation, came to believe in his own coerced confession. This phenomenon underscores how environments of torture and manipulation can distort a person's grasp on reality and truth. The case of Patty Hearst is examined as a paradigmatic example of brainwashing's complexity. Kidnapped and held captive by a radical group, Hearst was subjected to physical abuse, sensory deprivation, and psychological coercion that led her to adopt a new revolutionary identity and participate in criminal acts. Despite her trauma and the coercive context, public opinion largely refused to exonerate her, reflecting society's difficulty in comprehending the depth of mind control and the fluidity of identity under duress. Transitioning to the 21st century, Lemov highlights how the instability of truth is no longer confined to wartime or cults, but permeates everyday life through digital platforms. Social media companies like Facebook have conducted large-scale experiments manipulating users' emotional states by altering the content of their news feeds. The 2012 Facebook Emotional Contagion Study demonstrated that exposure to more positive or negative posts influenced users' own postings, revealing how digital environments can harvest and exploit deep emotional vulnerabilities. Lemov warns that these platforms are designed to maximize engagement and profit, often by promoting outrage and emotional extremes, which can exacerbate polarization and mental health issues. The algorithms curate reality in ways that users rarely perceive, making it difficult to discern objective truth. This soft brainwashing through hyperpersuasion is subtle but pervasive, shaping beliefs and behaviors on a massive scale. The conversation returns to government involvement in mind control, emphasizing that such practices have never fully disappeared. The military's SEER training continues, albeit with psychological screening and modifications, but still involves exposing soldiers to traumatic conditions to prepare them for capture. The ethical implications of these programs are troubling, as they often inflict lasting psychological harm. Lemov also discusses the use of coercive interrogation techniques, such as those employed at Guantanamo Bay, where torture and sleep deprivation are used to extract confessions. These methods are not only morally reprehensible but also unreliable, as they produce false confessions and undermine the pursuit of truth. The persistence of such practices highlights ongoing tensions between security, ethics, and human rights. Beyond institutional settings, Lemov explores how mind control and hyper-persuasion manifest in personal relationships, particularly abusive or narcissistic dynamics. Such relationships often involve isolation, manipulation, and the gradual erosion of an individual's autonomy and worldview. The process mirrors larger patterns of thought reform, where identity is reshaped to align with the controlling party's demands. She stresses the importance of maintaining connections with trusted friends and family as a safeguard against isolation and control. Recognizing the signs of manipulation and understanding that such influence must be continually renewed offers hope that individuals can reclaim their freedom and sense of self. Finally, the discussion addresses the broader societal challenge of discerning truth amid shifting narratives and institutional mistrust. The COVID-19 pandemic exemplified how public health messaging, scientific understanding, and political agendas can collide, leading to confusion and skepticism. Lemov emphasizes that science is an evolving process, not a fixed set of facts, and that the suppression or distortion of information for perceived greater good complicates public trust. She advocates for critical engagement with information sources, media transparency, and an awareness of the forces shaping our perceptions. While the instability of truth can be disorienting, it also invites reflection on where we place our attention and how we maintain agency in a complex world.